The Bible has been written over and over and over and over and over. They said that the original Bible was written in Hebrew. So for us to be reading it in English, we know that something happened. So me and the brother Blackburn beforehand, we agreed on which Bible we were going to be debating. That's important too because we're sticking to the topic. I'm not trying to be all over the place. And we agreed to debate the King James Version of the Bible from Genesis to Revelations, the 66 books. All right, just so everybody know, I meant to say that earlier, but I didn't. What I want to do before I really just get off into it, I'm going to read something out of Joshua. But there is such thing as poetic language. You know, when we say the sun rose or the sun set, that's what's called poetic language because the sun is not rising and setting. We all understand at this point that the earth is revolving on its axis and it gives the appearance of the sun rising and setting. Now, the earth is rotating at over 1,000 miles per hour. Okay? This is what gives us our day. Make sure we all understand that. In Joshua chapter 10, verse 12, it says, "Then spake Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves." Now, one thing we have to understand is Joshua chapter 10, verse 12 and 13. Okay, where we have a miracle of Joshua speaking to the sun and the moon and them standing still. Now, we know that it appears the sun is rising and setting because the earth is spinning. And it's spinning over 1,000 miles per hour, right? The atmosphere is spinning. If the earth were to stop, because the only way for the sun to stand still, the earth has to stop moving. It's not the sun, because it appears to be moving because the earth is spinning. If the earth, and Google, look it up with physics. If the earth were to stop moving, spinning, everything on the surface of the earth would instantaneously be moving at over 1,000 miles per hour. So there's no way for the earth to stop moving and the sun and the moon to stand still and people standing on the ground to be able to continue fighting. They will instantly be jerked forward 1,000 miles per hour. Imagine holding onto a car that's driving 100 miles per hour and it suddenly hits on its brakes. You are coming off the hood of that car. So for the sun and the moon to stand still, the earth has to stop moving again. Is everything in it accurate and true? It does not line up with physics. Now, if, like I propose, that God didn't write or inspire the Bible, we have to ask ourselves who did. I'm gonna tell y'all something. This brother has never read the King James Version of the Bible. And I can say that, I can stand on that. Because if he have, he would not have called for this debate. And he would not have picked the King James Version of the Bible to deal with. He just wouldn't have did it. And not saying the 66 books from Genesis to Revelation. I want y'all to turn to the page in y'all notebook that looks like this. And I'm going to read something for y'all. It's towards the end. It looks like this. Okay, and I'm going to go into it because I'm on a time frame, but y'all find it for me. The word apocrypha means secret or hidden, yet there is nothing secret about these 15 books. These writings were printed in the original King James Bible of 1611. So the original King James Version of the Bible that was printed in 1611 had the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Apocrypha in it. So if you want to debate a King James Version of the Bible that only has the Old and the New Testament, you are debating a corrupted text. Again, from the jump. The debate should be over. But people are coming for the information, so I'm going to include the information. But the original King James Version of the Bible, it had the Apocrypha in it. Who took it out? Was it God or was it man? And if it was man, then God didn't divinely inspire this book. It was a man. Okay? First point. Now, if we want to know where the King James Version of the Bible actually came from, let's get into it. I'm going to read to y'all something out of the New Oxford Anointed Bible with some of the most up-to-date information that the scholars who are studying these things have to say. It's not just going to be me up here talking to you, okay? They say that the English Bible owes more to William Tinsdale than to anyone else because the basic structure of his translation has endured. it has been estimated that about 60% of the text of the English Bible achieved its final literary form before the King James Version appeared. They go on to say, and that in the King James Version, the original, not this corrupted one that I'm forced to debate, at least 1/3 of the New Testament is worded exactly as in Tyndale's New Testament, while the sentences of the remaining 2/3 follow Tyndale's general pattern. For 2.5 centuries, the King James Version maintained its place as the authorized version for English-speaking peoples, without any serious consideration of its revision. But in 1870, the Convocation of the Province of Canterbury appointed a committee to undertake a revision. Not God, not Jesus, not an apostle, not a prophet, not even a Jew. You're not even part of the bloodline. The Convocation of the Province of Canterbury appointed a committee to undertake a revision of the original King James Version of the Bible. The American Standard Version, containing the renderings preferred by the American scholars who had cooperated in the work of revision, was published in 1901. So first, we've already established that this isn't even the King James. It's not. And you have to accept that the original King James had the Apocrypha in it. And if this doesn't, off the rip, we're dealing with a corrupted book. And when we go to find out who took it out, we get the Convocation of the Province of Canterbury. And we get containing the renderings preferred by the American scholars, not God. I'm not here to debate God, but God didn't change it. God didn't change it. The King James Version of the Bible, and I want y'all to look some of this up, it was based off of Hebrew texts that were from the 10th century AD. He didn't have Hebrew text from back here. They recently found the Dead Sea Scrolls, but King James did not have that. And when I'm talking about the 10th century AD, I'm talking about from 900 AD to 1000 AD. About 600 to 700 years before King James. That was the Hebrew text that he had, and it was called the Masoretic text. The Greek text that he had was called the Septuagint. The Latin version that he had was called the Vulgate, and he had William Tisdale, which 60% of the New Testament in the King James came directly from William Tisdale. So we have to say, where did these other books come from? Let's dig into it. The Septuagint is a Latin word that means 70. The tradition is held that it was 70 individuals who came together to translate the Hebrew Bible from Hebrew into Greek. Why Greek? Because around 300 BCE, a man named Alexander conquered Egypt, right? A man named Alexander conquered Egypt in 323 BCE. After he died, he divided up his empire between 4 of his generals. One of them was named Ptolemy. Ptolemy took over Egypt. And you ever heard of the Library of Alexandria? That is why it's the Library of Alexandria, because when he conquered it and he found all of that information that was already on the African continent, already in Kemet, they built a library and they just started getting all the information, all the scrolls, all the books from all over the world and putting them right there. So Ptolemy decided to get the Jews and told them, hey, translate your text into Greek. So the Jews that were in exile at that time, they decided to translate the Septuagint. Now, the Septuagint has various books of the Apocrypha in it. Now, I don't know if he brought any of the Apocrypha with him today, but I have it. Yeah, I have it, and I'm not going to go into it, but I've done some homework on this. But if the Jews, when translating their text into Greek, decided to put it in, who gave the Convocation of Canterbury the right to take it out? Okay. Now, what they're going to try to tell you is that, the Hebrew Bible was canonized before some of these apocryphal books were written. Canonized basically means that they had already agreed upon what books were supposed to be in it and what books were not supposed to be in it. But we all understand the story of the Bible is the Bible was being written by many different authors over an extended period of time. So what I would tell the Christian is the New Testament wasn't in the canonized version of the Hebrew either. Oh. So if that's your point to throw out the Apocrypha, you have to throw out the New Testament as well. Now, I'm not telling you to throw it out. I'm saying if that is your logic, you have to throw it out. But if you want to put the Apocrypha back in, it's a lot of other books that you have to put in too that I have with me, and I'll be more than happy to bring them out at the question and answer. You have Gnostic Gospels, you have the Gospel of Judas, Gospel of Mary Magdalene, okay? You have several things that were taken out of the Bible. Now, he said I got 10 minutes, so I'm going to shoot it to this next point. Get this. We finna deal with this Moses that he was talking about, right? Okay. They say that Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible. This is what they say, right? And Moses is purported to, I don't believe it, but I'm saying it's purported to have lived around 1,400 BCE. If you look it up and you do your research, the Paleo-Hebrew that they say the Bible was originally written in didn't come into existence until the 10th century. Turn to the next page from the Apocrypha. They have a chart that I want y'all to look at and go over. Scripts evolve. Written languages evolve. They don't just drop out the sky. And Hebrew is by no means the oldest. Hebrew doesn't even go back to the so-called time of Moses at 1,400. So if Moses did write 5 books, he didn't even write it in Hebrew. What could he have possibly written it in? I say he didn't write anything, but I'm just going to show. The story cannot be true because there was no script of Paleo-Hebrew from the writer in at that time. Now, I've already said that I'll give him Solomon. I'll give you the Israelite people. They were a group of people who had a made-up history, you know, just like everybody else. They tied their history into something fantastic, right? But it was around that time when they say that the nation split. And I'm going to try to do this fast. Let's say this is the nation of Israel. And after Solomon died, they say the kingdom split. The lower half of the kingdom was the kingdom of Judah. The upper half was the kingdom of Israel, right? It was around this time, right after the 10th century, when this script even came into existence. That's when they began writing the Bible. And you have the Bible, it seems like it's saying one thing in one book and another thing in another book, because you had individuals down here in the tribe of Judah trying to write the history of the Israelites. And you had people up here trying to write the history of the Israelites, but they were trying to make themselves look better. I'm gonna go to something else for y'all real quick that I want to read out. I want to read to y'all what the scholars are saying. Let me try to get to this. Let me try to get to this quick. I don't, 15 minutes. They say 250 years of historical scholarship on Genesis have established that Genesis was written over many centuries using oral and written traditions. In the beginning, so to speak, were oral traditions. Since Genesis was composed in a largely oral culture, the Israelites, they just told stories. They weren't into writing things down. Most scholars agree that the text now found in Genesis began to be written down sometime after the establishment of the monarchy of Israel in the 10th century BCE, just like I've been saying. In either case, the earliest works now embedded in Genesis were products of scribes working in the context of the monarchies of early Judah and Israel. Many important parts of Genesis, however, were not written until after the monarchy had fallen in 586 BCE. It is nobody on planet Earth that is going to find you a Bible or any biblical text from the time of Moses. The oldest thing that they have is a little piece of Numbers. Maybe 2 verses that date back to the 6th, 7th century BCE. It's all going to be after that 10th century. All of it. They're not going to find nothing older than that. And if they do, they lying, man. They lying. They lying to us. Okay? Because it was around the time when they had a real nation. It was a split. You had tribes down here. You had tribes down here. They wanted to compose the oral traditions that had been passed down from generation to generation, and they started incorporating things that made them look better. Now, is there any proof of that? Is there any proof of that? Yes, it is. I got what now?
6 minutes.
6 minutes? Man, I hate that book out. Y'all gotta forgive me. But in my book, 101 Myths of the Bible, How Ancient Scribes Invented Biblical History by Gary Greenberg, president of the Biblical Archaeology Science of New York. Again, you can go to the biblical scholars and they're going to tell you the same thing. It's only the people that's not looking at the research that's going to tell you that it's all true. There are 2 separate accounts of the name Jacob being changed to Israel in the Bible. 2 separate accounts. In one, in Genesis 35, and y'all can write this down, Genesis 35, chapter 9 through 10, or 9 through 14, they say that God changed Jacob's name to Israel at a place named Bethel. And at Genesis 32, 24 through 32, they say that Jacob wrestled with an angel, and he wrestled with him all night, and then he got his blessing, and his name was changed at a place called Peniel. His name was changed at a place called Peniel. But that was only because, like I said, you had them writing an account, and you had them writing an account. And over time, they tried to merge those accounts together over the redactions, over the rewritings. They tried to merge those accounts together to make them make sense. But in one place, his name was changed to Israel. At one place, called Bethel. And in another version, in the same book, his name was changed to Israel at a place called Peniel. How is that possible? If not, if two people was writing the book. You also have things in the Bible such as the sacrifice. They are so big on what the Levitical priesthood is talking about with the sacrifice. But now that you understand that this stuff was not written so long ago, we find out, and I'm gonna tell you, they stole some of this stuff straight out of Kemet. Even out of Egypt, for some of y'all that don't know. Even the circumcision. Okay? And this is documented by a historian named Herodotus, who lived over between 400 and 500 BCE. Okay? He goes on to say in his, what? That's time?
4 minutes.
4 minutes? Okay, yeah, all right, man. Yeah, time is going kind of fast, so I'm gonna try to hit this point for y'all real quick, and then I'm going to sit down. I think I've proved enough on who wrote the Bible and where did it come from. Okay, man, I wish I would have had this marked. I apologize about the downtime. Come on, man, we gotta get this. They need this. Okay. Herodotus says that they sacrificed the designated animal in the following way. After leading it to the sacrificial altar, they light the fire and pour wine upon both the altar and the victim. Then, as they invoke the god, they slash the animal's throat. And after having thus slaughtered it, cut off its head. The body of the victim is then skinned, but they invoke many curses on its head before they take it away. So the Egyptians, when they sacrificed, they would invoke the gods, they would cut off the head of the sacrificial animal, and they would invoke the curses on the animal, and the curses were to take the curses off of the people and off of the land. And then when you look in Genesis, that was written over many centuries, starting at the 12th century BCE, right? They got it directly from the from the Egyptians. When they tell you about how the Israelites sacrificed, it's the same putting the curses on the head of the animals. It's the same exact thing. Oh man, come on, Calvin. Once again, I apologize, but we're gonna get to it. I think I have enough time to find that. My marker fell out. Oh yeah, good. Somebody with me, man. Somebody with me. Chapter 16. The thing I know where this stuff at. Okay, and Aaron shall lay both his hands upon the head of the live goat and confess over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel and all their transgressions and all their sins, putting them upon the head of the goat. The same tradition held by the Egyptians. By the Egyptians who were practicing this long before them. Long before the Israelites came along. Long before this was written. Why is it that you have these same two courses when they sacrifice, they put the curses or they put the sins of the people on the head of the sacrifice? Not only that, Herodotus documents that the Egyptians only sacrificed the male bulls. Because like I showed y'all in the first part, they had a female goddess represented by Hathor, a female cow entity. So it was not the females that were sacrificed. And when you go into the Bible and you go into Leviticus, God only wants them to sacrifice the male bullocks, the pure ones. The ones that were clean. Where did they get this from if they didn't get it from God? Because I just showed you Moses didn't write this because there was no Paleo-Hebrew at the time of Moses.
Got 1 minute left.
Okay.
Who wrote it?
Okay, so individual men and women came together after their nation was split. And they decided to write the oral traditions that their people had held. And they came up just like every other ancient civilization. They made up some ties to the gods. And the Bible did it through Adam. Moses could not have written the first 5 books if in Deuteronomy it tells of the death of Moses. Not only do it tell of the death of Moses, it said, and they have not found his grave unto this day. If I say Martin Luther King died and you cannot find his grave unto this day, that means he died before I'm actually writing it. And again, if you want to say the first Bible was in Hebrew, when did the Paleo-Hebrew script come about? It did not even come about in the time of Moses. You know, the Bible is the word of God. I think not. They stole that from the Egyptians too. The Egyptians called their written language the Medunetta. What you see is hieroglyphs. Hieroglyphs is a Greek word that basically means sacred carvings. Hieroglyph, sacred carvings, which they took from Medunetta, divine speech, divine utterances, word of God. They called their book the word of God because they were taking stuff from the cultures around them. Hebrew.
That's it.
Hotel. There you go, boy. Woo. Hey, you still here?
Blackburn.
Oh, that man left.
Oh, that was horrible.
You got the mic, man.
Now, I'm listening to what you were saying, and you're saying that this text was stolen.
Don't rebut me now, brother.
Okay. Now, when he said that this text was stolen, but
he
he also
me,
said that Solomon existed. He said that Solomon existed, and they found fragments of Numbers, the book of Numbers, that dates back from. He said that this book was created in 1000 BCE, but they found fragments of Numbers, what, 400, 600, 700 years before that? So, with that being said, the book of Numbers is without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, you didn't say that.
Now, what we want to discuss is, if we get to Moses, he said Moses doesn't exist. They haven't found the body of Moses. And actually, in the Bible, it states that they did not find the body of Moses. It also states what's going on with the body of Moses, but we'll get into that on the review time. But how did we get, again, this goes back to part of the first debate. How do we get this evidence of all of this stuff that took place if that story is not true, if Moses didn't exist? So the Bible never says that God wrote the Bible. The Bible clearly states that it's divinely inspired by God. So with that being said, we got to have, the Bible states that it has one author of the first 5 books, which is called the Torah. If it has one author of the first 5 books, how did Moses get any type of information of stuff that came before him?
How?
You supposed to be telling us. You telling us how.
So, with that being said, if Moses didn't write it, somebody had to get some type of, we gotta call it divine, because of the simple fact, he is writing about history that existed hundreds, maybe even thousands of years before the book was even written. And the history of those particular books have been proven from my account and from your account. History has been proven, and someone documented this history. You're saying they can't find Moses' body. You're saying that Moses never existed. But somebody wrote about the origins of planet Earth and hit it right on the money every single time. So if it's getting hit on the money, he wasn't around that time. Who's doing that? Again, the Bible was not written by God. It was inspired by God. So if it's inspired by God, as we get to these authors got to line up. Solomon. You said Solomon existed. They found his kingdom. You said the Israelites existed. Where is the origins of the Israelites? To this very day, they're still practicing the Passover. Where did that start? I'll tell you what body they can't find. They cannot find the body of the Pharaoh that lived during this particular time. That's what they can't find. They can't find that Pharaoh. But yet, this is somebody that didn't exist. Moses said that this guy was chasing after me, and that body is gone, lost. Not only is that body lost, that particular Pharaoh didn't have any sons. He only had daughters. That was the main reason why Moses became a foster child. Now I got somebody to take over my kingdom, but that body is gone. So now we continue to move on. Then you have, again, this particular part of the debate was supposed to be about authors of the Bible. So I'm going to give you authors of the Bible. You have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These are Gospels. You're saying it's not the divine word of God. Everybody that I mentioned got archaeological proof that they exist. Not only is their graves still here to this very day, in their graves, they actually got proof that these particular people wrote this Bible. Now, you're saying that these stories were stolen. You're saying that this book, this King James Version, was tampered with. You're saying that it's many, many different Bibles out there. Now, I'm gonna ask this question to Matt. How many languages do you speak, Matt?
It's not the rebuttal.
No, I'm just asking the
But
question.
it's not the, yeah, it's not the, you can't even do that though. You gotta prove your point. That's the
Okay,
rebuttal.
If the majority of people speak one language, when you say that I will write a book,
I mean,
would I write a book for the people that I'm presenting this book for? It wasn't a King James Bible. It was a King James translation, King James version. He was the one that was over the translating from one particular language to the next. I don't care how many Bibles you get into. You're going to miss a comma here, you're going to miss a word there. Every single Bible tells the exact same story. So if you go back to the original Bible of, let's just say, 1000 BCE, and you go to a 2016 Bible, it's going to tell you the same exact story, and you can again go hear, smell, see, and touch the majority, if not all of the stories written in the Bible. So with all of the stories that's written in the Bible, you can hear, smell, see, and touch, and you got the majority of the authors sitting in the graveyard, and you can actually go to their graves, and what they've written has been lined up perfectly. How could you possibly say that the Bible is not divinely written? I can't come up with something 10 years from now, or I can't come up with something and place somebody 100 years from now, and if you go and find that person, he's lining up exactly where I said he was lining up. You said yourself they found the wall of Jericho. Guess where you find that story at?
The Bible. There you go.
Thank you. So, with these stories being found in this particular text, with this particular book, not only did they find this wall of Jericho, but guess how they found it? If I go to Matt's text, if I go to Matt's documents, I'm not going to know how they found it. But if I go to the Bible and it says, look, the wall was torn down and it was burned to a crisp. And I can guarantee you that's exactly how you'll find Jericho to this very day. If I say God walked on Mount Sinai, you can go to Mount Sinai and find it the exact same way the Bible says it today. If you want to find out where Passover came from, it's going to lead you straight back to the Egyptians to around this time. So if everything is leading and they got proof of all this stuff, how is it possible for someone to say that it's not divinely inspired?
So who wrote it?
Okay, you saying who wrote it?
Many
I'm saying, for
authors.
example, Moses claimed to have wrote the first 5 books. So if I dig through Moses and start picking Moses apart, and I find that what Moses wrote is accurate and true, who's saying that Moses didn't write it is the question. Do you pick up every book and examine the author? No, the majority of you don't. You pick up your book and you read it for information. The only book that's been examined, the only book that's outlawed, the only book that's illegal in certain countries, the only despised and hated book in the whole world that's been despised and hated since it first came out is the Bible. To this very day, every single scientist, historian, archaeological, religions, no matter where you go, the Bible is the most hated book in the world. And yet you say the Bible is not real because they don't got a copy of the Gospel of Mary, which came to be a fake in the first place. Just because somebody said it's a Gospel of Mary out there does not mean it's supposed to be in the Bible. This does not mean that that's an accurate and true account. It does not mean it had anything to do with Mary, had anything to do with Judas. So just because you got other books written around that time, which was a quick way to make some quick money, oh, guess what I found? I found the Gospel of John. I found the Gospel of Judas. I could probably sell this and put this in the Bible. No, it was inspired. If it is inspired, that means that some type of way God intervened and got this book to where it lines up perfectly, historically, and on a particular timeline, and everything has always been accurate and true. Have any other stories that we talked about been proven to not even exist? You said that Moses don't exist. We got proof of Moses. We got proof of Israelites leaving Egypt. So my question still remaining. You're saying who wrote it? The person who wrote it hit the events on the nail. Everybody hit the events on the nail. If I go look for Matthew, I can find his grave. If I go look for John, I can find his grave. And guess what? Not only am I finding a grave, I'm finding the archaeological evidence on how they died, how Peter died, how John died. I'm finding Pontius Pilate was, guess what? The Roman procurator during the time of Jesus Christ. Every single religion believes in a virgin birth. Now, with that being said, no one was the only people that started denying the existence of Jesus Christ wasn't back then. That did come to years and years and centuries down the line. To this very day, we in 2016, our grandkids my grandkids gonna probably have to search, maybe even for information on Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. It's not hard to distort history whatsoever. But again, you cannot hide from the fact that everything has been lining up perfectly. So if everything is lining up perfectly, then who is the author behind it? Who is inspiring all these different things? Who's inspiring it? Is the Egyptian timeline inspiring it? Is the Egyptian stories inspiring it? They got people that existed so far away from the Egyptian stories that even if you was to say that these stories were stolen, how is it that it matches up in Genesis all the way in the book of Jude? When the Bible in the book of Genesis says that the body of Moses was hidden for a particular reason. Then you pick that up and it confirms it in the book of Jude. Then you got fragments of the book of Mark hidden in Egyptian treasures and Egyptian masses. You got the Dead Sea Scrolls that's lining up with the book of Isaiah. You got all these different particular things that's showing you that these biblical accounts, that these biblical stories by these make-believe guys is actually true, factual, and has been proven. But guess what? That means that what I believe in, what I study, what I'm placing my faith in is a lie. So if the Bible is true, that makes everything that despises the Bible a lie.
Amen.
So is archaeological lying? Absolutely. Is the Egyptian stories lying? A lot of them are lying. A lot of them. Not only that, they'll take and say, okay, well, this particular book was written by this particular guy, and this particular guy written this book long before Genesis, and since he written this book long before Genesis, that makes Genesis false. For an example, I heard, I'm pretty sure you guys can help me out on this one, the story of Horus or Iris, whatever it is. This particular person died, and they had the whole Trinity, the virgin birth, and all of these. It's tried to paint the picture that this story of this bird-faced guy, y'all call him a god, this bird-faced god or whatever it may be, had a holy Trinity, and it resembles the same exact imprint of Jesus Christ, Mary, and Joseph being a virgin birth. But yet, when you actually dig into that story, there was no virgin in that story. No virgin whatsoever. Then you say, well, y'all say y'all say Jesus was born on December the 25th. Who told you that? No one never said that. But then you would tie all of it in. See, not only was Jesus born on December 25th, Horus and Isis was born on December 25th, and this other clown was born on December 25th. So that just makes the whole Bible true. False. Then you say, well, y'all say Jesus was blonde hair and blue eyes. Man, I know that hurt black people's feelings. Blonde hair and blue-eyed Jesus, but we never said that whatsoever. But yet, I guarantee you, 50% of Christians believe that Jesus is a blonde hair and blue eyes. The reality is that we try our best to find evidence to prove that the Bible is not real and get egg in our face every single time. I don't need the whole 20 minutes.
Hey, man. Well, okay. We want to know who wrote the Bible.
Every author that said that's written the Bible has written the Bible. He said Solomon, for an example. We can go through the timeline if you want to. Solomon, Song of Solomon. He wrote the book of Ecclesiastes. Not only did he do that, Solomon had to have been born. Who was Solomon's dad? Solomon's dad was King David, the first king of the Israelites.
But we gotta take your word for it. You ain't giving us nothing, brother. Can I get a pamphlet, packet or something? I gotta take your word for
See,
it.
here's the thing.
And you freestyling.
Matt has to go and find a lot of information to go against the Bible. I'm saying that the Bible is going against all of that information.
Okay, just go. Just
No,
you.
let me finish.
Let
me finish. I'm saying that my book is going against all of those books in that box of books that he got. So if this one book is going against that, you got to show me, because guess what? I don't go pick up this book and say, hey, this book says A, B, and C, so that makes your book a lie. That's what y'all do. I don't go pick up a book and try to find a way to make another book a lie. I pick up a book and just like everybody else and believe it till it's been proven to be a lie. The Bible to this very day has not been proven to be a lie. All of the information that's coming is outside information.
So who wrote the Bible?
The authors of the Bible is plain, it's simple, it's easy. And not only the authors have been divinely inspired by God. So God never said he wrote the Bible. God just said, I inspired these particular people to write the Bible. These different authors. So if God inspired these people to write the Bible, and you're saying that the Bible is not true, and you're saying that it was not an inspired book by God, please show me.
But who are the authors?
You still got 5 minutes.
They said he don't want the time. We should go to question him now.
Okay.
Let's question this stuff.
We'll get into the authors. If you want to get into, you got the first 5 books written by Moses. According to this side of the room, Moses didn't exist. Okay, whatever. You have your Gospels. You have King Solomon. You have King David. You have Ezekiel. You have Isaiah. You have plenty of authors in the Bible. You're saying that they didn't exist. You're saying that they wasn't inspired by God. You're saying that they wasn't divine. I'm saying every single author that I got can be found, except for the Bible when it says that this particular one would not be found. And not only that, I'm showing you all the stuff that they put down on a piece of paper has been found, has been proven. I'm not saying Egyptian history didn't exist. I'm not saying Egyptians didn't worship gods. It's proof of that. But you saying that it's not proof of what I'm saying because of no reason. Because some guy said it didn't exist and it was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus. I don't go and look in a book and open up a book and say, oh, this book is false, it's fake. It got a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus. I don't believe it. Oh, this book is false and fake because they stole these stories from Egypt. But yet, the proof is not in the pudding. What's in the pudding is that these particular authors have wrote this Bible, and if you take the Bible and you read it just for that information and say, you know what, I don't believe this whole Moses thing, but yet you got a mountain of evidence. I don't believe this whole Noah thing. You got a mountain of evidence. I don't believe this whole gospel thing. You got a mountain of evidence. I don't even believe this whole Passover thing, but they're still practicing it to this very day. Everything, and oh, I guess that was stolen. But yet, if you go to Hercules, no one is not mad at Hercules or Zeus or the Tooth Fairy. No one gets mad over that. The only thing that gets on people is the Bible. That's why they will lie, steal, and cheat to prove it wrong.
3 minutes, my man.
If you have time, visit my website. I am an author. I wrote a book. Not a book on history. It is an urban fiction novel entitled Suicide Note. You can get the first 4 chapters for free to get a feel for the book to see if you like it. Just go to the website and send your information with a request for it, and I'll send it right over to you. And you can actually purchase the entire book, the ebook version of my book Suicide Note, for only $3 just by going to the website. And the website is on your screen, thechosenfew.webs.com. I appreciate all of your support.